Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bowhunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands. Searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bowhunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bowhunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bowhunting. Team, welcome back to Becoming a Bowhunter. I'm excited to share this episode with you. It's with Matty Moore from Kayuga Adventures and Kayuga Broadheads. So we delve into it. We talk a lot about the Broadheads, but we really talking about the adventure side of things because Matty has been going up to the Cape for many years on end. He actually lives in the Hunter Valley, but he heads up there every year and helps people out with guided hunts. And something that is new to the Kayuga Adventures is the Bowhunters course. And that's really what this whole conversation is around. We're talking about pretty much fast-tracking your results as a bow hunter. For anyone who's kind of been watching along my journey, I've kind of really had to figure it out as a late onset hunter, I should say, coming into it in my adult years and having to kind of figure it out the whole way. Whereas these guys take you out, they look at your bow, they tune it up, they teach you how to sharpen your stuff, they teach you how to track animals, they teach you how to stalk animals, they teach you how to shoot the animals. It's literally like from the A to Z of bow hunting. And I think this episode in general just has a lot of good content in there for you, but also gives you something to check out if you're interested in the Bowhunters course. Sit back, relax, and enjoy, team. Alrighty, Bowhunters, welcome back to another episode. Exciting to be sitting here with Matty Moore. Welcome, mate.
Thanks, mate.
So, I mean, our paths have crossed many times without us actually ever having to talk to each other, just through the likes of people like Grant and Boof, for instance, Ian Summers, because you're essentially the third part of the tripod when it comes to Kayuga, right?
Yeah, I am probably the third leg that
keeps it a stand, keeps it afloat. Hey, Grant actually told us some stories about a lot of the Broadhead design being kind of your original idea when he was on the podcast. How did it kind of all come to, I guess, flow for you?
So I've been sort of bowhunting since I was 7. I've probably been shooting a bow since I was 5. So, a lot of like background experience in as a kid, shooting a few ferals and whatnot. And I was, 17, 18 or whatnot. And in Australia, the broadhead market, there was sort of only a specific type of sort of broadheads that were in Australia at the time. Social media was there, but it wasn't like it is today. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted a broadhead that I could shoot with a ferrule going all the way to the tip so they weren't bending over.
So you mean the tip like is in the sides of the triangle, essentially, like the very end of the triangle, the points?
Yeah. So where the ferrule is the bit that screws into the arrow, and that like sort of goes all the way to the front of the broadhead to reinforce it and make it stronger.
Yeah.
For smash and bone and keeping up with hit and stuff, whatever you come encounter, split and bone and stuff. Anyway, the only sort of broadheads at that time that were on the market were black stumps, known as blackies, and all the older fellas would know what the black stumps were. They were sort of the go-to head to shoot, but unfortunately the production wasn't there, and we couldn't get heads and all that kind of stuff. And my father's got a fabrication shop, so I'm a boilie by trade. Work with metal every day in my life, and I thought I'll just make my own, So
how good?
I did, I come up with the idea and sort of put it in place and just put it out there, see how it went, and that's where the old schools were designed, just a simple 2-part glue head that was sort of comes from the black stump style, the Tusks style of head, and that's how that all come about.
It's interesting because I've tried a lot of different broadheads, and I tried the Tuskers, for instance, and they were just very inaccurate for what I was using them for the compound bow. I think they're actually now pretty much I've got them, or I've got a few different variations that I use just for my trad bow, but not that I hunt that much with that. But it's like they're accurate for that. They're not accurate for the compound bow. It's like the pressure or the amount of power that gets sent through it. They're just too inaccurate with the way of the fabrication. Something I've definitely come to note with yours, say for instance with the pilot cuts, especially the Gen 2s that I used on my most recent hunt, was in the lead up to it, I actually had a bit of a bow malfunction. And I went and got my bow completely paper tuned in. And I tried all of the different broadheads at that point in time. And yours were the ones that would go exactly as it was with the paper tuning. I tried different 3 blades. I tried different 2 blades. And of all of the broadheads that I was putting through, you guys, one was the one that actually was literally just, I didn't have to tune it, didn't have to touch it, didn't have to do a thing. And that just gave me confidence. I was like, okay, cool. Now I just need to figure out how to fucking sharpen these bastards.
That comes down to surface area of the blade, you know, so yeah. But sharpening, like that's a question we get a lot. And I think people overthink it and overcomplicate it. Mm-hmm. It's actually not that hard. We spent sort of 18 months getting a steel, right? Like different recipes for steel to make the heads. And 18 months of trials, testing, like these prototypes are in the Capes. We're shooting boars every day sort of with these things. Nah, that metal's no good. The edge retention isn't good enough for that. Oh, that's too hard. Like the blade's too brittle here, this and that, you know, until we come up with what we wanted. And literally it's a diamond steel and you can touch them up, or a half round file is the simplest way that we sort of put out there. You can go and get a paper wheel and all that kind of stuff to sharpen them, and there's other different ways, but seriously, a diamond steel and a file, you can't really go wrong. You just have to keep the degrees of the sharpening edge the same. You keep that same and you apply the right pressure, not too hard because you'll roll the edge. If you just do light strokes, they come up, they pop hairs. Yeah,
it's interesting. So I actually upgraded my file because I didn't have a good file, and I upgraded my my steel. I got an FDIC steel, and it made the world of difference to the actual sharpness I could get. It just wasn't quite punching hairs the way that I would like it to. Like I'd get 1 or 2, I wasn't getting like a shaving cut. So I actually, I talked about this previously, but one of my mates he runs a Mr. Minute, and he actually has like a mobile servicing like belt sander that he takes around. And so he just chucked it through that like a few times, a few little touch-ups on each side, and it was punching from there on. So it was great. Yep. But yeah, really having the correct equipment made the big difference for me. That's what actually made me got me sharpening it a lot better. And right now they're at the point where I just use them on the weekend. I punch them through a deer, and I'd happily pick them straight back up, use them again. Like they're in my quiver now, and they'll stay in my quiver for my next hunt.
Yeah. You just have to. I would recommend just give them a swipe on a smooth steel if they've still got their edge holding their edge, just to touch them up a bit, because you don't you want to do the best for the critter. You can, keep them sharp, but they'll be fine in your quiver, mate. Any moisture, the edges don't rust on them because they're a stainless steel thing, so you don't have to keep touching them up all the time. And and the same steel that's in the Gen 2s is in the Zots as well. So it's across the board in our one-piece head range.
I actually I was so close to transitioning to the Zots before the rut this year, and I was like, you know what, just stick with what you got. I've got so many broadheads, dude, and I'm like, I've got these ones, I know they work. Let's just get them sharp, and they'll be awesome. And they did the job for me.
That's it. Just don't overcomplicate things. That's my biggest thing to say to people is, just don't overcomplicate things. Get things a shooting right. Accuracy and shot placement, they're your main two keys. Broadhead sharpness, you want them sharp. put them in the right spot, and you'll watch animals fall over within sight.
100%, man. That's awesome. And so you live a pretty unique life in regards to, you kind of really follow bow hunting around. You've got your house down in the Hunter Valley, plus you're up in Strathburn Station, up in, is it count as the Cape, essentially?
Yeah, Cape York.
Yeah. And so you kind of do, is it 6 months and 6 months in locations?
Yeah, kind of like 8 months up north in the dry season, and sort of 4 months back home in the Hunter Valley. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in the Hunter Valley and just have sort of transitioned up to the Cape,
So did you kind of go up as a jackaroo or something like that, or what happened? How did you kind of get into that?
So it's actually 10 years ago that I first went to Strathburn, and they were running guided hunts there, and I had 3 other mates come with me, and we booked a hunt, went up there, and when we got there, a lot of Cape York stations are like this because they're all privately owned, they're not big business, country's rough. There was one vehicle working on the whole station. There was welding jobs needed to be done, this and that. Anyway, we forfeited 2 days of our hunting and got into the workshop, and we done welding repairs, we done like fixed vehicles, they weren't running, so all it was is a simple service.
Yeah.
Change the filters out, put new fuel in them because they've been sitting over the wet season, charge the batteries up, all that. But Strathburn never had the manpower at that time. So we gave them a hand, and they offered us to come back, do some work for some hunting. Anyway, we done that for a couple of years. We're going to do a bit of work on the station, fixing stuff, cattle work, fencing, you name it, whatever needed to be done. And then, it transitioned into, I was up there actually helping do the rifle hunting that they were actually, their main business was. And at the end of 2015, when I was there, they come to me, and the bloke who was actually running the rifle hunting said, I'm finishing up this year. Would you like to take it over? So I was I think I was 21 at the time, 21 or 22. Anyway, so I took it over from there and sort of haven't looked back. Just running bow hunting now.
Yeah, I was going to say you transitioned it, so you completely just said, "Look, no more rifles. We're going bow hunting only."
Yep.
And how did the owners feel with that?
They were fine. They sort of that's what you want to do. That you go for it. Like if that's how you want to run your business here, you can do it. So they were happy with that because we're doing trade-offs for work for hunting. So that's sort of how that whole relationship come into it, which was pretty good. Yeah,
it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And what about previous guests that had been there? Was there any, I guess, upset from the rifle hunters that had been coming?
Like, as in, did you mean were they still coming?
No, were they upset? Did you have anyone push back on you or anything like that?
Oh no one pushed back. No, they.
I understand.
That's a new business sort of take over,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There you go. That's cool. It's a pretty little cool way to kind of get in. I think something that is so valuable, and it's exactly what you just said, is when you go to someone else's property, they just don't have the manpower, right? Like, there's always a job you can do on the farm, and even though the farmer's probably going to say to you, "Don't do anything," like, it's fine. We don't need. No, it's fine. You're enjoy yourself while you're here. Like, you take the time off. You need it. Blah blah blah. It's like, no, just get in and I don't know, chuck some bales of hay, or like you said, fix up some equipment if you can. Tidy up their shed. Like, do whatever you can just to help out. I really think that makes a big difference, and it's probably what's going to keep you welcome at the farm as well.
Oh, definitely. That's sort of number one. I've always, any property that I've ever been to, I've always given them a hand, whether I go there for the weekend and I only get to hunt for one day. Mm-hmm. The other day I'm giving them a hand. But in the meantime, I appreciate being able to do that. I just like to be out in the bush. I don't mind giving hard days labour. That doesn't worry me. So definitely you just, get in, giving them a hand. They appreciate it. And, if you're welcome back anytime. If you respect them, they'll respect you.
Yeah, 100%. And so let's talk a little bit about Strathburn. How big is that property? It looks huge.
It's 600,000 acres. Ooh. So in perspective, it's 50 kilometres by 50 kilometres sort of boundary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
massive. massive sort of.
Do you ever drive the whole property? Like that would.
No, probably 3/4 of it. There's still sections that we can't get into because it's just wild country.
Yeah.
By the time it dries out, you're too scared to take a machine in there because you don't know whether you're going to get rained on.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know, so you've got to wait for a couple of dry years to be able to get machines in there to put tracks into other hunting spots. Still finding little nooks and crannies and little bits and pieces to hunt. So it's real good. It's like adventure every day. You don't know what you're going to find when you go into them parts.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. I've got a little, I hunt on a 3,000 acre block and I still find nooks and crannies and I've been there for 4 years hunting it. And it's just like, it's crazy. Imagine what, oh my God, I couldn't even get my head around the size of your block.
Yeah. So if you want to drive from the homestead down to the bottom corner of the southwestern boundary, it's a 70-kilometre run bike track.
Yeah, far out.
And it can take 2.5 hours just to get down to the western boundary.
Yeah. It's pretty insane. Pretty insane.
Just to, put it in perspective for people, that's just one way, you know.
So let's firstly talk about then what animals are on offer to go hunting at Strathburn.
So there's abundance of wild pigs there. We do have scrub bulls to hunt, but I don't advertise them because they get mustered hard.
Yeah, got you.
Right. So, but if we do bump into one, a good one in a stalkable position, we can go and hunt it. I can probably go and find a bull here and there throughout the year to hunt, but they get mustered really hard, which is another side of Strathburn. You know, that's their income. You know, cattle.
Definitely.
So it is a cattle station, so they muster the ferals and send them off to market, especially with the cattle price being so high.
I was going to say, this year it would be a complete game changer, right? Like, what were they getting versus what are they getting now for a scrub bull?
Maybe 10 years ago they might have been getting $300 or $400 a head, maybe, you know, and then you've got to pay chopper fees, wages, fuel, transport costs. And then last year I know of a big Brahman clean skin bull that they got not off Strathburn but in the area, and he made to the sale yards and he was about $4,000.
Jesus, big difference, right?
So
10x your return.
He would have been like a wild sort of herd bull.
Yeah.
Big fully Brahman, but they're clean skin Peninsula Reds. Like they might be 300-400 kilos on the hoof. You know, they might be making $1,200-1,500 a head, maybe.
Yeah, wow.
All depends what the buys are at that time. You know, like on that week, who's at the sale yards and who's buying.
What happens with the biosecurity side of things there with a scrub, like a wild cattle, for instance, when you take it there? Because with the biosecurity laws, I think pretty much the way it works is as soon as a cow's born, it's put into the biosecurity system and it's tracked the whole way through its life. So they always know where it is. When it's something like that, an animal where they don't really get to track it at all, what's the go with it? Is it just pretty much a different category that they're then able to butcher up and sell?
Yeah, so I'm not sure too much on the biosecurity phase. I know they can go to Mariba. And then whatever happens from there, I couldn't tell you exactly on the biosecurity stuff.
Yeah,
I know that they have trucked cattle south, and they have to go to like a flea and tick dip.
Yeah,
sort of halfway in between Mariba and Townsville. And then from there, that I'm sort of useless on that information.
No, that's fine. That's
you know,
100% okay. It's interesting, like. People often ask me what my favorite or what one of the most like the hunts that I really want to do. Like, what would be your favorite hunt in Australia? And scrub bulls have always been right up there for me. It's something I've always been like very interested in doing. And even if someone's like, "Oh, over water buffalo," I was like, "Yeah." To be honest, I think, and obviously I'd happily hunt both, but scrub bull just piques my ears for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I rate them really highly of scrub bull. They're wired, like, you know, yourself probably. You go out in the paddock and the first thing to pick you up in the paddock is a cow.
Yeah.
You know, their eyesight's pretty good. Their senses are really good, especially if they've been mustered. Like they're on their toes, you know. They're cranky, got attitude about them.
Yeah.
I rate them highly to hunt. They're a pretty good species to hunt. You know, a lot of people probably put them down the list a bit, think, oh, it's just a cow or it's just a bull. But once they turn feral and they've got a bit of attitude and they know what they're looking out for and that kind of thing, it's a whole different story, you know.
So do you have any near miss stories with a angry scrub?
I don't know.
Okay, that's good.
No, I know not on Strathburn. We haven't had any incidents.
Yeah.
I do know of fellas that have been charged and whatnot, but they probably put themselves in the wrong spot at the wrong times, you know. Usually it happens on the second arrow, the backup arrow.
Yeah.
It's not the first arrow because 95% of the time the bull doesn't ever know they're there.
Yeah, definitely. And
you know, so
what's their sense of smell like? I know you said they're obviously pretty cluey in general, but they're pretty onto it.
Oh yeah, they're up there.
Yeah,
they're
wow.
up there. They're good. They're good. You know, like it's like any animal. Like to find water, they have to smell it. You know, so up there when the water dries out, they have to travel a fair way to find water. They can smell the water. You know, they can smell dangers.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so scrub bulls and bulk amounts of pigs.
We've got a heap.
That's pretty much the offerings up there. And you know what? Like I've seen some pretty incredible, like big old boars taken from up at Strathburn. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, the place is so big, and we only sort of hunt 1/3 of the place every year.
Yeah.
So they get old, mature. You know, the big hooky fellas, like they've got big tusks hanging out. They're usually not that big of a pig, but they've just passed their prime. You know, they're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old.
Down. Yeah.
They've lived a hard life up there.
Yeah, I can imagine the amount of fighting and stuff they do. But it's interesting that that continuum of life for an animal, especially for what a lot of people would call a trophy animal, right? It kind of, they start small, they grow big, they look better as they come down the other end almost, don't they? Like when they, for instance, a boar in particular, their tusks only get longer the older they get, even though their body might be withered down a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Like we find that if we're shooting or we're hunting hogs in the river country, we get big hooky fellas in the river country, but they might have come out of the sand ridges or whatnot. It's not as common to get them like big, massive hooks. They've still got hooks on them, but not like the sand ridge pigs or the spring system pigs that live out on the sand, like out in the sand ridges. All it is basically sand and a bit of creek or spring, you know, that a little bit of mud that they can get. And I don't know whether they evolved to grow them tusks out there to gain food.
Yeah, I was going to say digging.
Or what it is. But them swamp pigs, I haven't seen them grow as big as tusks as the ones out in the sand ridges.
It's pretty interesting, hey? It's pretty, whether it is evolution or if it's just because of the feed that they're on or whatever it might be, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, but if you get yourself way out into the nooks and crannies and whatnot, like there's not as many hogs out there. You might walk a creek system and only find half a dozen pigs for a hunt, but you could find there could be 2 old fellas out there that have got big, massive hooks, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So let's talk a little bit more about the actual Kayuga Adventure side of things. So this is essentially the business that you guys run on Strathburn, where you're taking, like there's obviously the guided part where you can go out for your own hunt, or there's the like beginning Bowhunters course essentially, right? Like it's anywhere from someone who's a beginner right through to someone who's been bow hunting for 10 years and just wants to gain the experience. Like I think the awesome thing about archery and bow hunting in general is that it's an ever evolving skill piece that you need to learn, right? You can never necessarily be yes, you can be the top of your game, but you can probably do a lot of things wrong when you're at the top of your game. There's a lot of lessons that can be learnt and a lot of lessons that can be taught. There's a lot of different ways to shoot a bow, and some of them are great, some of them are not so good. And I think there's just many sides to almost perfecting the skill without ever actually attaining perfection, because that's a hard thing to do. But something that you guys do is take in a beginner bow hunter, or is it called the Bowhunters course essentially? What do you guys call, and what do you run it as, and how's it all go?
Yeah, so the Bowhunters course, it started out from, I had clients coming up and I just didn't see that they were getting the value for money for a bow hunting trip, because they weren't prepared enough. You know, their bows sort of weren't shooting right, or they're struggling to hit one hard, or they had all different types of equipment and they sort of didn't know whereabouts they were within bowhunting, you know. They sort of weren't confident with shooting an arrow, be able to hit something, and all that kind of stuff. So I come up with this idea to go, okay, let's run a course or a beginner bowhunting sort of thing. We can run it at the start of the season in June, because we know we can find X amount of pigs on certain swamps that are sort of easier to hunt. We can study their body language. We can coach people through what they look for, how to find sign, then how to follow sign, you know, like through the whole stalking and hunting process. But we can also, back at the house or the homestead, we can go through the whole bow setup, tuning a bow, why this matters, why a center shot matters, why to have your rest set in the right spot, is your D-loop in the right spot? If not, how to check it, how to change it. This is what we do, how to set a bow up, you know, right through to paper tuning. You've got to tear left, tear right. This is how we fix it. Not necessarily we're right in everything, but we've got Brad Smith, Ian Summers, and Brad Murphy helps out from time to time. They've sort of got they've sort of got over 100 years experience in bowhunting and archery, you know, and they're three different separate blokes and they go three different ways about something, you know. So it's also the people that attend get to see different sides of how Smithy would go about it, or how Ian would go about it, or how Brad would go about it. And they bounce off, and all of a sudden you've just got this whole encyclopedia of bowhunting and archery right in front of you to take in the information on, how to go about it, you know. And it's necessary. Like, probably I find it necessary because I want to make better bow hunters. 100%. I want to make bow hunters to be successful. I like other people's success. I don't have to have fun or be how would you call it, happy if I haven't succeeded. I like other people to succeed, you know, and see them come through the whole bowhunting journey, because we've all been there of what do we do? How do we do this?
Definitely.
You know?
And it's funny because you can get your bow shooting well, but then you put an animal in front of someone and you give them some nerves, you give them a little bit of stress and anxiety, and you say, all right, shoot this thing right where you need to. But the other thing is you're shooting your target all the time, and you're shooting your target with a circle on it. But then you get in front of a pig, or you get in front of a deer, you get in front of a goat. Like, okay, now where do you shoot this animal? Like, where are you aiming for? Where's the critter? Like, where's the kill spots on this critter? But also, the other thing that you were just saying is actually the stalking, the finding, the tracking. Like, that stuff would really fast track you a lot. And that was a lot of what I suffered with, I think, to start with, was not really understanding, okay, once I find the animal, then what happens? And I think that's just that alone is pretty invaluable for someone who's trying to get into hunting. Probably fast track you many years, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. Like, well, the blokes that we've had through, and what they give the feedback, like the feedback they give, is pretty. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with they're happy. They're amazed of actually what they've learnt and all that. Like, I know we're only hunting pigs, but pigs are sort of the bread and butter. You know, if you can learn on pigs and sort of understand or learn how to find sign and track them and whatnot, that happens with any other critter. You find that critter's sign, that critter's footprints, them pads, walk with the wind in your face, that kind of thing. It's going to apply to every bit of game that you hunt, you know, but it's sort of deer are at a next level from the hogs. But if you can master the pigs and be comfortable with them, shoot them, shot placement, as you said, then you'll go out and go deer hunting, and you'll find that you're applying the same tips, techniques to going deer hunting as you did when you went pig hunting.
And it's like every little step that you take gives you a notch in your confidence, right? Like, okay, my bow's now shooting accurate. I have complete faith in my gear or in my bow. Check. Okay, my broadheads are now sharp. I know how to do it every time. check. It's like each time you get that little win, your confidence starts to boost, which is a really big thing. You need to back yourself when you're in the bush, when you're taking a life, because if you're questioning, heck, is this arrow going to fly where it needs to fly? Is it going to do the damage it needs to do once it enters the animal? It's going to make you more nervous and make you potentially just stuff up the whole process, and potentially wind up with bad cases of injured animals and you feeling absolutely freaking horrible. So each one of those little notches, like you said, or those little steps of the process, it really does just fill you with confidence. And what that does, especially for when you're going for, like you said, the pigs, as soon as you go out and you start hunting the next critter, whether that be a deer, a scrub bull, or whatever it is, you're going to have a lot more confidence in you and your abilities as a bow hunter just from doing that.
Oh, definitely. It's massive. You know, like we call them little notches that you're sort of saying, we call them 1%ers.
Yeah.
So every 1%, you're 1% better off.
Yeah, 100%.
1% closer, 1%, you know, like you can just, every 1% adds up. You know, all of a sudden you're 5% better off. And you just, as you said, confidence, like you get confidence shooting a bow, confidence stalking, confidence being within a critter's comfort zone, I should say, and not panicking.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Like you said, put an animal in front of someone and it's a whole different scenario to a target. So with this Bowhunters course, you're out hunting sort of probably 4 or 5 days you'll hunt out of the 6. You know, and you'll get multiple stalks at critters sort of throughout the week. Usually, if we've got 4 hunters or 4 beginner bow hunters, they'll get a stalk on game every day.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So, you know, that's the base. Sometimes they might get 2 or 3 stalks a day, you know, because at that time, we're not only hunting boars, we will hunt mob pigs as well. And it will just get people in, be confident, get them confident to be within an animal's comfort zone, show them that they don't even know they're there.
Yeah.
You know, like you can do this and you can do that. Get in there, just watch them, watch their body language. While you've got someone there explaining what's actually going on, what they're seeing and how to go about stuff, you know, not you just out there in the middle going, oh, I'm close now. Now what's happening? What do I do now? You know, like you've got someone there just giving you tips over your shoulder. Be calm, be patient, wait for the right shot. If they put their head up and walk away, so be it. We'll get another chance, you know, Yeah,
it's so interesting. It's I was just kind of thinking back on different experiences that I've had throughout my time through bow hunting. Like I'd still say I'm a beginner. And like, for instance, learning about the ears and learning about the direction of an animal when they're actually aware of you versus when they have no idea that you're there. And multiple times recently, I've hung off of deer at 20, 30 meters and they have no idea you're there and it's just complete relaxed animal. Compared to pigs where I've been on them and they pretend to eat. Like they're tricky little buggers, what they do. They'll pretend to eat and they'll have their ears stuck at you. And it's just interesting watching the persona of an animal when they think something's up.
Oh, definitely. Like that's, if you can read body language, you can put yourself in a position to get the job done. You know, like 80, 90% of the time, you know where you have to move and when to move. You know, you can just get in. No, you have to get in front of them, or you know the travel route. You know, you can get over there. You can see that the lead sow's heading that way. So, okay, she's going to drag the mob over there so you can cut around, get the wind right, get in front of them. You know, like it all comes down to that body language, knowing knowing where to go. And you're just another 1%, another 1% here, 2%, 3%, 4%, you're up and you've got a shot opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's incredible. And I've had Brad Murphy and Ian Summers on the podcast before. And I've talked to many people who have hunted with them both, as well as Brad Smith. And it's pretty interesting because every single person I talk to tells me a different tip that they picked up when they were with those guys when they were hunting. And it's really cool. And obviously it's based on your perspective as a hunter, like where you are in your stage. And so you might go to the course as a beginner and pick up obviously a whole wealth of knowledge, but then you might go there as a 2, 3, 4, 5 year bow hunter and pick up completely different things that might have been ruining you in the bush, based on just something that they might say along the way, because your perspective is a little bit different to, say, a brand new beginner. And I just think that's pretty incredible. I'm still trying to get Brad Smith on the podcast. I've tried a few times, but I'll keep fighting for that. Apparently he's not much of a talker in this sort of situation. Just got to get him in the flesh, apparently.
yeah, in the flesh. No, good luck trying to get him on here. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I'll keep trying. I'll keep name dropping.
Might happen one day. Might happen one day.
But I mean, I was going to say, to go down that route a little bit more, a lot of the bow hunt down under, so Brad Smith runs Bow Hunt Down Under with Jerry Redmond, and a lot of the Cape York videos, I believe, are done from Strathburn, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So the Cape York Part 1, 2 and 3 and Seasons Change, they're all done on Strathburn early season. So them films there are sort of what you can experience in the bowhunting course. That's all around that time of the bowhunting course. So they were filmed before the bowhunting course come to sort of be in place, you know. I had Jerry and Brad up there for multiple seasons doing it, and we're yet to do a late season hunt because of the COVID and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that sort of gives someone an insight of what they can sort of expect.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good depiction of how many critters are actually there and how much access you've actually got. Some of those swamp hunts that they do, where there's literally pigs in every single direction that they look, and so it's just about getting the winds right to make sure you don't blow a stalk because of the winds blowing different pigs, not the one you're actually chasing, is pretty interesting and pretty awesome to see. It just shows how much opportunity you actually have up there.
Oh yeah, sometimes there's just too many, you know, like there's too many eyes. So you've got pigs, and then you've got wild cattle, and you've got birds and all that, and it doesn't go to plan. So you might have to set up and try and call a boar back to you, you know, like just a bit of a call that we got, and just try and paint a picture in his head to come across him. You might make something work of that, or sit back, have a look, leave him, try and find something else, come back, and hopefully you might have half a dozen still left. All the rest have moved off, and you can make your plan.
How routine driven do you think pigs are?
So back here in New South Wales on the crops and whatnot, pretty routine travelling from back and forth from food sources. In the Cape, I've seen the same boar on the same swamp maybe for a week, and then he disappears. Up there, I haven't been really able to pattern any pigs. They're sort of random. They've got so much country. They've got so many food sources, so many bedding areas. All depends, same thing on the wind, the heat, the food source. Did we hunt that swamp a week ago? Haven't we hunted it for 3 weeks? Or we might not have touched it for 2 years. All plays a part in where they go, what they do, how they behave. Yeah. Full moon, new moon, that plays a part. I see that with the moons as well.
Yeah, it's funny, the people who say that that does not make any difference to the animal, I call BS, because it's like the amount they can see during the night versus not see. I think it does make a big difference, right?
Oh, it makes a massive difference. If they can feed at night under the cover of darkness, and they've sort of been we don't pressure them, but they've come across our scent, or there's been a pack of dogs that have come in or something, and they go, okay, we're not going to feed during the day now, we'll feed at night. As it gets hotter, they'll feed at night more than during the middle of the day, because it's cooler. Yeah, you know, the pigs got no sweat glands, so to keep cool, they have to be in mud and water.
Yeah, it was actually, I think it was James Doomstis that said they have to be in 25 degrees or less. So obviously up there where the country, like, how hot does it get? It'd be 40s most days in summer, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So we crack a 40 sort of maybe late September, and it will be high 30s, 40s. If a heat wave comes through, it might be 45, 48. Yeah. Through to sort of Christmas. Yeah, wow. You'll get them early storms that come in November, cools the place down, but the next day, humidity and heat again, you know.
Yeah.
So
there's at least water around for them to lay in by that point.
There is. It depends on the wet season again and how wet it's been in the past years as well. So through the drought, obviously there was, like, I had permanent waters marked on my phone and they weren't permanent waters in the drought, like sort of 16, 17, you know. But now, like I say, last year we had a good wet of Cyclone Trevor. Then we had another good wet and the water table was that full that we had 50 mil of rain in November and all the spring systems started to run.
Oh, wow.
That was in November, you know. So, water can dry up. Water does dry up and it does congregate them. But also we've got that many food sources to go and have a look at. So as the water is receding, it creates food. Yeah. Which that's where you're trying to find them earlier in the season. Just food sources, not bedding areas. But so, as it gets later in the season, they come back into them permanent spots where the springs are still running, the permanent waters are there, the shady creeks.
That makes a lot of sense. And something that you were talking about before was the pressures of hunting, essentially. Obviously, having such a big block, it means you don't really, if you wanted to, within 2-3 weeks, don't have to go to the same space day after day. But within saying that, if you find a swamp that is really good quality and there's a lot of pigs on it, how much will you kind of pressure a space like that if the pigs keep coming?
We'll just sort of keep hitting at different times of the day, not at one time every single time, you know, like sort of not at religiously at 4 o'clock every afternoon, you know. You might do a morning hunt there and then you might leave it for a day and then you go and do an afternoon hunt. Or then you might go and have lunch there on the next day, you know. So you might pressure it for a week of blokes that are there. Yeah. And then you might have a changeover day, new blokes come in, you go into a different area and then you know that swamp was working, so you sort of have let it settle down, then you come back that week later, you know? Yeah.
How true do you think it to be in regards to dropping your scent on the ground when you walk through a space or dropping your scent around a space? And have you seen that quite regularly with the pigs, for instance, something that does have such a strong nose on them?
So I've seen it with fresh scent. Obviously, if you're sort of walking along, whatnot, you get around the edge of a swamp and then you look back from where you come from and you go, oh, there's hogs coming in here now. And you're glassing them and then they sort of walk in and they hit your scent and they just don't know what to do. Like, especially the hogs up there, they don't really smell human. So they sort of, you know, they know something's up and they might walk out and then they'll walk around to a half an arc and they'll come back in and they might hit your scent again and that might push them off, or they might hit your scent again and go, oh, well, it's here as well. There's something up here, but we want to get a drink or food or something will come in. But as for scent of being laid down, say in the morning and come back in the afternoon, I think it depends on how much sunlight it gets.
Yeah, okay.
How much it burns off, you know. So I don't know whether in the hills, in them shaded gullies that you get, that how long the scent stays there for. And I really don't know how long the scent stays there in the sun. Maybe someone can.
Yeah, some scientists might be able to tell us. I think it would also matter on how much you're brushing up against things. So if you're in thick country and you're brushing through stuff all the time, you're obviously leaving your scent in many more places versus if you're just walking along a sandy creek, for instance.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially if you're sweating like you do up there and you brush up and, you leave like sweat particles and stuff, you know.
So let's talk about if someone was to come on a hunt with you guys, what would you recommend people bring clothing-wise?
So everyone has their own sort of thing for hot weather, you know, particular outfit. Yeah. Yeah. Back in the day, we used to run fishing shirts.
Yeah, okay.
Sort of a natural sort of colour, cool. They do a good job, like fishing shirts, not knocking them at all.
We use good BO getting around the camp, I'm sure, with those fishing shirts. They tend to collect all the BO.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of people run the Tusks stuff. They come up, I know me and Smithy, we run the merino tops from Kuyu in the Tiburon pants.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So a 125 weight in the merino wool, we find just breathes better, like it's wet, but then when the wind blows, it actually goes through it.
Yeah.
So it just, keeps you pretty cool. You know, you're going to be hot. You're going to be hot in anything, but it's just having something that breathes, you know.
Definitely.
If what you're wearing is not breathing, you'll overheat and you'll cook yourself, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially from coming down south. You're not used to the heat.
No,
you turn up,
not.
you're not sort of, you're not used to it. You haven't been living there and it hits you in the face.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's almost like you can eat it. It's that hot. It's in your face all the time. Yeah. And then what about things like your mosquitoes and stuff? Do you ever have issues with them? Do you have issues with people coming that just can't deal with them or that need to just bug spray up? And then how does the bug spray affect the hunt, for instance?
Yeah, so, we just have red or Bushman's. Danny, actually, my girlfriend, she gets eaten alive, so she's got everything there to protect you. And but it's only late in the arvo or early mornings, you know, that during the middle of the day, don't really have an issue with them, or we haven't sort of seen it. Every year is different. Depends on the wet season, how much larva there is, how much they have hatched, what's been going on, you know. So is it windy? Is it not, you know? But the scent from the red or the Bushmans or whatever you put on yourself, if the wind's up your ass, they're going to smell you anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Whether it's that or not.
Scent blocker and all that stuff, it doesn't really matter. Like,
it's
if the wind's
American
blowing
prank,
up your ass. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And obviously the marketing works. A lot of people buy it, but I don't know. I don't think you don't see very much of it over here in Australia at all, right? I think.
No, I don't know. I've never tried it, so I don't know. But
True.
I just reckon.
Can't really say.
Yeah, I can't really say. I reckon if they're going to smell you, they're going to smell you.
And so early season hunts for you guys this year, you said that you've still actually got a few positions available for the Bowhunters course in particular. What does that look like? How can someone get in touch with you if they're interested in maybe jumping on up for the hunt this year?
Yeah, so they can just message us on Insta, Kayuga Adventures, and we can hand them out some information. Basically, what I've said on here about it, you know, is the run of the deal. You'll get all your lodging and meals supplied. You got to get yourself to the station from Cairns if you fly to Cairns.
Yep.
And it's just 6 days of basically hunting.
Yeah.
Talking archery, hunting, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night over tea, a few beers and whatnot. You're still talking archery, hunting.
Bowhunter's best dream, hey?
All that type of stuff, you know. So just the information that gets thrown around the table of different scenarios, what's better, what's not. Different release aid types, you know. We'll have all different release aid types for people to try because they might shoot a thumb trigger, get to try a hinge, work out that tightens their groups. They can use the hinge for a training aid, go back to a thumb trigger or a thumb release for hunting purposes, or vice versa, tension releases. You know, there's all that type of stuff there. There's a few different sites floating around, a few different rests, different arrow combos, different veins.
It's pretty incredible, right, to have that all available to you. I did that myself and bought myself a back tension release as well as a hinge release. I got given a hinge release, and to be honest, it's made my shooting so much better, like just using those more consistently. And so whenever I practice, I'll typically practice with either my back tension or my hinge release. And then when I go, just before I'm about to go for a hunt, I'll use my trigger release, and it's just my groupings are that much tighter, and then it makes me happy to go out with my trigger release for the hunt. Just see an absolute world of difference. So having that ability without having to spend $600 or whatever just on getting two different release aids is a pretty big deal in itself, right?
Oh, definitely. It's massive advantage because you can pick them up, try them, shoot them. You got a whole week to play with them. So it's not like you go to the shop and you get to try it on a test bow there or a bit of cord on your wrist.
Yeah.
You can actually shoot it and feel it and go, yep, okay, oh, wow. Throughout the week, like the improvements you get made to your form or Ian goes through how your muscles work in your back and how you should use your muscles to make a release go off. And I know we're talking about release aids and target, but if you can shoot a bow very well and know how to shoot a bow, when it comes to time to shoot a critter, muscle memory is everything.
100%.
Because what your brain's thinking is way out the window. So if you know how to train yourself to do it properly, you're going to be a 10 times better bow hunter because you'll be able to execute the shot properly in different scenarios, and you're going to be more successful.
Yeah, definitely. Transitions across for the rest of your bow hunting career, not just for right now, right? Which is invaluable. Yeah,
the tips and tricks and techniques you're going to learn is going to be with you for life. It's not just going to be like, oh, yeah, we done 6 days up there and then you're going to forget about it. It will be an ongoing thing for years and years and years, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So what dates do you have left, or when are you kind of running these courses from?
So we got dates on the 2nd to the 9th of June and the 9th to the 16th of June that we run them.
Yeah.
You get in there on a Thursday. We sort of settle in Thursday arvo, go over a bit of stuff, sort of whatnot, and then Friday we're into it. So Friday sort of you go through a lot of get your bows out, your gear, have a few shots, and then sort of Ian will, the master of bow tuning, will come through and Smithy will look at it and go over it and go, okay, we'd like to change this, this, and this. How do you feel about it? Because this, and this, the problems going through, and all these changes sort of get done on Friday. Your bow will get tuned, you know, your timing will come in, peep heights, D-loop heights, rearranging your D-loops, centre shots, all that kind of stuff will get changed on your bow if you need it to be, and you'll get shown how to do it.
Yeah.
Not just give me the bow, put it in the press, do this, and then here's your bow back. You'll actually get there, stand there and get explained on why you tie the D-loop this way, why you put the peep side in that way, how to change your draw length minutely, all these bits and pieces like that. Just the little things, you know, again, your 1%ers, 1% here, 1% there. Go back and shoot, change your form up, your stance, how you shoot off your feet, you know, run the bow through paper, all that kind of stuff. And then the second day we'll go through shot placement scenarios, segments. I've got 3D pigs there. We lay them down to understand how to shoot bedded critters. All that kind of all them little valuable bits of information get brought up.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. 2 parts on that. One is that we haven't really mentioned is the camaraderie side of things. So I think one of the big things about bow hunting when you first get into it, depending on the situation, the scenario, and if you've got friends in the system or not, it can almost be like a bit of a lonely world when you first get into it. And then you start to realize how small a community the bow hunting community is. And going away for a trip like that for 6 days with some people who all have the same like-mindedness to you for hunting and the rest of probably a lot of your outlooks, it makes it a pretty easy way to bond and get some pretty good friends. Like I came into bow hunting not knowing, I knew one person that bow hunted, and now some of my best mates are in bow hunting, or because I've met them because of bow hunting. It's pretty crazy to say, and I think a week away with some people like that, you're gonna build some pretty close bonds. The second part that I want to say, though, is some of the stuff that I've seen in regards to the course content that you guys do is, and it's pretty brutal in a sense, where you essentially you chop open a pig to actually look at a real life organs, look at how things lay, the ways that a pig should get shot, if it's getting shot through the ribs versus if it's getting shot through the shoulder, like how it's going to look and how that's going to play out as a shot placement. And I think realistically, that is just preparing bow hunters to be better and making sure, like you said, that every shot that they're releasing from the string is a dead animal, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. Like them autopsies that we do that for that exact reason. So the next critter they come up on, they can sort of envision where that ticker's sitting or where the lungs are, you know, like they've seen inside. So they've seen how the bones lay. they've seen the size of it or where it sits. So if you can envision what's actually in that critter instead of looking at the side of the critter and going, oh yeah, it's in there somewhere. If you can envision that ticker sitting there and you can put your pin on there and that shot breaks clean and you're aiming what you hit, like you're hitting what you're aiming at, it's game over for the critter. It's going to be more successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I think everyone should cut their critters open and actually have a look what's inside there, where they sit, where they lay. I think that's a very important part of bowhunting is breaking down critters, and then you can understand why some shots are not good shots to take.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think something I've always done is actually looked in at the organs of the animal to see, okay, what did it actually do? Where was the shot placement? How did it go? How did it play out? Or that one took a little bit longer to die. Why was that? And it's like, oh, you got one lung rather than two. Or that one died incredibly fast. You got a heart shot. Like it makes all the difference just knowing all those little bits and pieces. And then also seeing what sort of damage your arrows are actually doing. Like if the arrow is sharp enough, you'll see a nice, clean, big cut through there. But if it's not, then potentially you won't see that. But yeah, it is interesting. I do agree that, yeah, you should definitely be looking at the organs. A lot of people like to do the gutless method if they're going to take meat, and that's fine because you want to keep things clean. But at the same time, I think it is a good learning method as well.
Oh, well, I couldn't agree more. Like, the more you know about a critter, the better off you're going to be.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, yeah, if you can just, again, come back to that 1%, if you can just know even the bone structure, how important the bone structure is to know to where to put that arrow, like we see a lot of deflections, I should say, on bone, on bedded pigs. So that's where the arrow actually doesn't enter into the chest cavity.
Goes up the rib cage.
It actually it glances off a rib or glances off a bone and it goes up inside the skin. Looks like a good shot because your fletchers are poking out that where you thought you're aiming, but in reality it's just run up the side of the animal and never got in there to get the job done. Like if you can't get in there, you can't get the job done,
Yeah.
And that's a big design thing about the pilot cut. Sorry, jumping back to a broadhead sort of thing. If the back of the blade hits first, it's actually going to drive that tip in. It's not going to deflect it out.
Yeah.
Like that's a massive thing that we've seen up there.
I've actually heard that's very typical of a mechanical broadhead as well, to kind of skirt up the side of a rib cage versus something like a fixed broadhead or like the pilot cuts, like you were just saying. They'll typically kind of do the job a lot better or a lot more solid as a piece to shoot through something. Have you seen that in general, or does it matter?
I haven't seen a lot of stuff shot with mechanical heads, so I can't sort of comment on that. I'm not really a fan of them. There's too much going on there for me.
Yeah, I think that the kind of overall the outlook in Australia is utilise a fixed broadhead, right? Like it's going to be a stronger thing that you can pick up and use multiple times. It seems to be how most people roll within Australia.
Yeah, I think, we shoot a lot more game than the Americans do. Well, what I've seen anyway. We don't have seasons. We can go and hunt whenever we want.
Yeah.
You sort of, you're looking, for instance, Smithy, he reckons he shot over 50 chital deer with a bow last year. Wow. Like that, let alone any other critters that got put down. And that was just one person. Like you got Owen when he was in the territory. He was shooting multiple buffalo a season, like hundreds of buffalo.
Yeah.
You got people up north, same thing, just shooting boars, like they're shooting 50 boars for the year, So we don't want a one-shot wonder. We want something that we can reuse.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man. Oh, that's crazy. Before we cap it off, let's maybe just give a quick insight. What was your favourite hunt ever that you've ever done yourself or that you've taken someone on?
Oh, hard question. I've got a lot. I like all my hunts.
You've got a lot of animals just behind you there.
My favourite hunt. Jeez.
At least most memorable, something that sticks out for you.
They all do. It's hard. It's hard. Like, I know
Each one comes with its adventure.
My red that's on my wall, sort of behind me. So everything that's sitting on my wall behind me is pretty memorable, you know.
Yeah. I mean, given that we've just gone through the red raw, then let's talk about your red, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it was a real good hunt. Again, I was there with Smitty. I was fortunate enough from a young age to meet him, and we hunted the same deer block.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, well, there one day, and this red, the fella on my wall, he was up this gully. Oh, sorry. Yeah, he was at the top of a gully on the other side of a ridge.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we had to walk down one ridge, through the creek, and up the other. And he was roaring and roaring and roaring. And he wouldn't respond to any calls. And we were slowly going up there, and it just glassed him. He was actually bedded roaring. And all we could see was the tip of an antler just going, like, swinging back as he's roaring. We set up for a few more calls because we could see him. Thought if we got closer, it might be enough for him to come. And yeah, he wasn't into it. So kicked the shoes off, and I stalked him way up high in the hills. Like, it was steep. And I got into 15 of him as he was roaring. He was bedded there, and I had to wait 45 minutes for him to stand.
Yeah.
Just to get a shot. And as he stood, and I actually shot him mid-roar, which was, I've always sort of dreamt of shooting one mid-roar, and
Definitely.
it was pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, that's pretty memorable. Do you find that's actually pretty typical of, like, actually, which part of the season were you there for the raw? Like, first week, last week?
That was, I think it was the 3rd of April. So in the Hunter Valley there, like, that sort of getting a little bit to the sort of end.
Okay.
That it was a dry year too, so I don't know whether they come on earlier or whatnot, but they generally roar earlier down here than they do up in Queensland.
Yeah. Okay.
So he was pretty run out. Like, I don't know whether he was just tired, you know, and he didn't want no part of the calls, or we set up in the wrong spot. Like, as in, no, I've just come from there. There's no deer there. I've already searched it.
Yeah.
There could be a whole different, a heap of stuff that we'll never know, you know. So
it's pretty interesting. I actually I got up on a monghead last year, I think it was. He was coming up the hill at me. He noticed that there was something up, but he didn't really know what it was, so he kind of just moseyed off a bit. And then I started hind calling him again, and he actually did the same thing. He went and just bedded down up the top of this hill. He just sat down there. He's just roaring his head off at me. And so I just kept calling for probably half an hour and nothing. He just roared back at me. So I ended up running around him and trying to stalk down on him, but it just wouldn't work. And it wasn't until I got up on top of him and he thought that was a new hind that he moved it all. It's almost like, obviously we can't get in the minds of them, but it's pretty interesting to watch their mannerisms, isn't it?
Oh yeah, like if you're calling from the wrong spot, you're
done.
Nothing will happen. But if you're in the right spot, well, it's on, you know, and it can just be, a matter of, no, I've travelled through there and I actually know that there's no deer there.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Oh, obviously not dumb critters, right? They've got a lot of life experience.
Oh yeah, they're pretty switched on. So yeah.
Well, Matty, thank you very much for joining us, man. It's been a good little pleasure to talk to you. And like we said before, if anyone wants to jump up for a hunt from the 2nd to the 9th, or the 9th to what was it? 9th to the 18th,
the 16th.
Sorry, yeah. Then just get into your DMs pretty much on Instagram is the best place to reach out.
Or you can go on the website, the Broadheads website, go on to adventures. You can send us an inquiry through the website as well. They'll come through ime,il and we can get back to you, which is probably the easiest way. There's a bit of information there on Strathburn on the Broadhead website there as well, and
good stuff. Actually, that's the question I had for you. How far is it from Cairns?
It is 6 hours from Cairns, so that's our closest. closest supply shop is Mareeba, which is 550 k's.
So what do you find people like for people who are making their own way out to you? How do they mainly do it if they're flying into Cairns?
So usually we put them all together and hire a car is probably the cheapest option.
Yeah.
You can hire a car, comes up, sits there. You're not going to go over your kilometre limit, and you can drive it back. That means you can carry what stuff you want. If you need to bring in beer or grog or whatever, you can bring it in.
Yeah.
There is another option to fly in on the mail plane, which is how we get our groceries and our mail. There's an aeroplane every Thursday.
Yeah.
But this year I've got an email off them, and I think I've got too many people booked in on the plane because they're sort of kicking up a stink that it's not for tourists, it's for local communities. So I don't know. I have to chase that one up. But, the car option would be the more reliable option anyway.
Have to nurture that relationship a little bit, Matty.
Yeah. It changes every year, mate. That's one consistent struggle I've got up there.
I can imagine. Mate, well, thank you very much for your time, dude. And, hopefully you guys can get up for a hunt. That'd be awesome.
Thanks very much.
That wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, team. If you did have any topics, questions, or you wanted to suggest a guest for Becoming a Bowhunter, you can send me an email at matty@becomingabowhunter.com. If you are enjoying the show or you've enjoyed in particular episodes, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends. If you are not already, please hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers we get, the higher the podcast gets ranked, and that definitely helps out for showing it to other individuals. If you are not already following me on Instagram, it's at becomingabowhunter.podcast, and on YouTube, it's Becoming a Bowhunter. Get out, team, fling some arrows, get that practice in, and walk those yards in the paddocks until you find those critters. That is it for now, but not the last time that you'll hear from Becoming a Bowhunter.